silencing women.
Yes. And plenty of us have been silenced, I'm sure. Or you felt like someone wanted to shut you up or shut you out.
Or shut you down. There has been plenty of times in society where we were told it's not our place. If we are not sitting at the table, we are not welcome to the table to have this conversation. And quite frankly, we are, by all essence, the backbone of everything that happens.
You really are.
If you want to go historically, it's always said, a woman's place is next to a man holding them up. Back in the day, we were the ones keeping the house in order, making lunches and dinners so you can go out and work and be the breadwinner of the house. Now it looks a little different because women do way more than that.
Yes, they're no longer silenced.
Right. But there are some atmospheres that still, to today, especially in corporate America, where women are told, this is not your fight. Or are the token on the team. You're here to be pretty and hold the spot.
Oh man, that's too funny. Because I've always heard that term where men think, oh, just shut up and look pretty.
Right.
It sucks because I have developed that mentality. Not necessarily towards me or towards women, but towards men. So I get it.
It's crazy because, where men are considered, aggressive in a good way, assertive.
Yeah.
We're considered aggressive.
Right.
Or where they might be considered passionate, we're emotional.
Well, see, the thing is, and this is on my own experience, when men tend to speak, for me, they ruin the image of themselves. So in that aspect, I kind of understood when it said, when they have the women be quiet and look pretty. Because if you don't have anything wise to say, then don't say nothing. You're looking like a fool. But that's not always the case.
Right.
And growing up, we were taught that you were seen and not heard. Don't speak unless spoken to. These types of things. And I remember it. And it's funny that when you said to me yesterday that for all intents and purposes, I should be mute. As many times as I was told to shut up and be quiet. And I did. But I was always in the books. And therefore, when I got on my own, I found my voice, but not my voice to speak out to the public. I found my voice to speak up for myself a little bit with certain people. And now I'm working on it a little bit better, so I'm no longer silenced.
It's amazing how one caveat, one thing, just the word quiet can mean so many different things. Oftentimes the word quiet for a male is a negative thing. You are not to be quiet. You are to be rejoiced through your verbal communication to stand out for what you want. For women, quiet is a requirement. You are to be, simply put, meek and mild.
Right.
You cannot raise your voice because you are too emotional. You are PMSing.
That is true.
You cannot talk louder because you are aggressive.
But some people actually have to strain to be heard because they're so used to being quiet.
Or whenever you get, emotional in a good sense, like when I get happy, I get louder. It's not that, I'm aggressive. It's not that I'm yelling. I just get louder.
Right.
It just reflects in my voice. But that's too much.
For
How
some.
dare you?
Well,
For
some.
Right. And so, for us, we are not supposed to be upset. We're, literally we're supposed to...
Yeah, how I used to be in my 20s.
We can't do that. We have emotions. We have responsibilities. We have stressors on top of fighting socially to be who we are.
True. But that's why there are so many more women in power today. I wonder what type
in part.
Well, yes. But I just wonder what type of What type of lessons were they taught when they were younger? Were they the type to be taught that you can be anything, you can do anything, or did they have moments of silencing? You know,
it is my belief that every woman has been silenced at one point or time, whether it's medical care or employment-wise or family-wise.
True.
Like, I feel like every woman has a moment, at least one, where they have been silenced. They might not have been told outright to be quiet, but they were belittled or
given a band-aid. I got you.
Right. Or told, you're overreacting. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
You're overreacting. Don't be so sensitive.
Or you're a hypochondriac.
Right. And those words, those statements are, at the very least, stripping us of our opinions.
Right. And making us afraid to speak.
They make us second guess ourselves.
True enough.
Which further impacts our already fragile self-esteem and confidence levels, because, God forbid, us women walking so boldly in the world, especially 20, 30 years ago, when, we were growing up and our older generations were out in the world doing their thing, fighting for our rights. We've only had the right to vote, maybe 50 years? No, I think it's been less than that, hasn't it? I can't remember the exact date, but it's not that. It's like one lifetime within the last lifetime.
Exactly.
So,
why did I flash to 1800 something?
No,
girl?
You weren't even born.
No, I know, right, girl? I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes and I saw the daggone list of women's rights and stuff, and that all I saw was 1868, and I'm like, Lord, that's the wrong one.
That's the wrong year, wrong decade, wrong century.
Go ahead, girl.
But no, even back then though, we bared children when the men wanted us to bear children.
Okay.
We didn't have a say if we
Couldn't
were
have our
bearing
own
children.
bank accounts. It had to be them co-signing. There was this. Girl, wait. When I was 17, 18 years old, I was married and I wanted to do a joint income tax. Yeah. And they would not let me be a head of household.
Yeah.
Even though I made almost 3 times as much. Like, what?
Because you're not the man of
And
the
that's
house.
exactly what the woman said. And I'm so glad it's not that way today. At least I hope it's not. I haven't had to do that again. But yeah.
I don't know that either, but I mean I am the head of my household.
Right.
And I'd be damned if I'm gonna let somebody take that from me just for the sake of
Tell me
a
about
man
it.
has to be the head.
I won't
of
ever
my-
let that happen again.
But this is all ways that we are silenced. And it doesn't have to be the actual silencing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for instance, you're at a meeting, and this has happened to me where I'm at a meeting, I'm speaking my point factually, without emotions, and it's, well, why would you think that? Well, I just told you all the facts. What do you mean? Why would I think that?
Right.
It's not a think when you have all the facts spewed out for you.
True enough.
But that's another way of then belittling and removing or stripping that person of their voice.
I was just going to say, trying to antagonize you into a dramatic situation. Therefore, they can then say, but she's so aggressive.
And you're so emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Are you fit to do this job? Are you capable? And why aren't we capable? Even in our emotional state, even when we are emotional, that just shows how connected we are to these things that we are doing. Prime example, our children. Let something happen to our children.
Lord.
We become very emotional. And we don't care who we have to verbally cuss out. But you're missing our words because you're looking at the emotion and how you think we're supposed to be packaged.
Exactly.
But you're missing the words. And this often happens when, for instance, I went to the hospital with my child that needed assistance. I was, helping the child breathe and getting the child together and doing all this stuff. And because I'm taxed, tired, keeping this child up all night because they're not breathing the right way and doing all this stuff, and I'm emotional because this is a child losing breath, not doing what they need to do. well, you're emotional. It's not that serious. They'll be okay. They've survived. This has been happening for 2 weeks, like you said. And I've been in the hospital 3 times. But no one's listening to me that I have to be the breathing source. I have to wake this child up. Don't worry, the child is now on BiPAP and is doing really well. But it was a fight for 2 whole weeks. And to the point where I had to leave that child in the hospital I had to leave for a whole night, and the child's O2 dropped. And they did not hear me because I was in the hospital. Well, it comes right back up because I'm standing here. I'm not going to just let the child cold. Like, who does that as a parent?
Exactly.
Who does that?
Yeah.
But I'm too emotional.
Yeah, see that?
You're not listening to my words behind the emotion.
Seeing your fear. That's the whole
But
thing.
even if you listen to my words and just understood that.
But the reality is they're seeing it from a medical perspective, whereas they've seen cases like this. They're not taking into consideration that you've been up all night. You're afraid, number one.
In my opinion, they wasn't even doing that. They wasn't even seeing it for the medical part, because when the child goes to sleep and I'm like, you need to send someone in to watch this, you're just watching a monitor and you see it drop, but I'm in the room. I'm not going to watch this drop to the point where the child colds.
Exactly. And
have somebody in the room.
If you weren't in the room. Exactly, I get it.
And that's what happened the night I left. But why, as a parent, do I need to get to that point when all you have to do is listen to my words and do your job?
Funny thing is, the way you said that, it goes across the board.
Right.
When we're speaking to our meetings,
Right.
when we're speaking to our mates,
Right.
why does it have to get elevated? Why do I have to get to that point before you just listen to my words? Because
Right.
it's not automatic elevation. It's I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, and then it's boom. So.
Correct. Oftentimes it's interesting because, and again, partly because I do life coaching, you see these people show up with, this is a continuous thing. And normally when people get to the point of marriage counseling or some type of counseling, it's beyond the point of a quick fix. It's beyond the point of being able to work through the current, because there's so many things that has happened before. And so in terms of relationships, you have to uncover. It's like an onion. Right. You have to peel off the layers to get to what really started this whole chain of reaction.
That's true. And you have to be willing to listen and let.
You have to be willing to do the work.
Right, yes.
Which includes.
But yes, women need to speak.
Listening to each other.
And not just bottle it up.
Right. And just because someone's emotional does not mean that they're not factual in what they're reporting.
True.
That just means that they're emotionally tied to what they're saying or doing or feeling.
Right.
Which is fine.
And it's funny because the statement goes that when a woman stops yelling at you,
she's
done. She's done.
And that goes across all boards. That's not just in relationships. That's
exactly.
in anything that they do. When a woman typically is a yes woman, they usually don't have too far to go. And it's quite interesting because that goes across all cultures that I've seen. It presents differently. Some people will physically remove themselves.
True.
So they don't have to deal. Some people will literally close their mouth and just let the other party just talk or be heard. And then some people will just challenge everything. So that way they're not heard, but they're going to debunk everything you're saying. So it's like, but why do I need to do this? And why does that need to happen? And why are you doing this?
Basically
and why?
tiring the other person out.
Right? But it's toxic.
Yes, it is.
It's toxic. Yes, it's toxic and it's taxing. And so it still poses the question of, why are women silenced? And for me, I truly believe that it's an old rhetoric that continues to surface because of fear of what women can do. And, even back in the day, women were dressed as men to go work because we couldn't work.
Yes. having to take a male pseudonym in order to write a book.
Right. Right. So a lot of these things that we know to be true today started so long ago.
I wish I could remember that woman's name.
We couldn't just be. We couldn't be great at anything that statistically we were supposed to be good at.
Right.
We couldn't go be construction workers. And even
No.
today.
Girl, but I was.
But typical construction
That was
workers today
awesome.
get outed by the rest of the team that are usually all men.
You know what's funny? When I did it, they all tried to keep me out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
They literally would tell me, can you just take a break? You're making us look bad. Because for me, it was a way of working out my frustration. A woman
Right.
in construction, oh my God, it just helps with whatever's going on in your head. So when you see a woman in construction, she's good. More than
But
likely she's taking out her frustration.
Why do women have to be outed? Or, not necessarily, I guess out is not the right word, but isolated in a team just because she's a woman. Oh, you wouldn't get the banter. Oh, you wouldn't. Why?
And see, that's weird because they're just doing their little cat calls and stuff like that when they're out there in the, break or whatever. And maybe some of them actually have respect for the fact that she's the only woman. Who knows? But I don't know. For me, I was just a very, very determined worker.
Right.
So, I don't know.
And I don't think it reflects anything on the skill level. I think it has really to do with the understanding that most construction workers are men. That is a manly profession.
True.
Just like teachers is usually women. It's a womanly profession.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like when it came to the women in construction, I realized I was actually paid less than the men.
Right.
And that was slipped up by accident. And I'm like, okay, when you said that women are usually teachers, so does that mean men were paid less? I doubt it. Exactly.
No. Same thing in social worker.
And see, I think that's unfair for sure.
Men in general are paid more than women across the board. Despite the
Which doesn't make any sense.
Because it's a man's world.
What's about to change?
And truthfully, they believe, and I say they, and I say they because it's an illusion of people. But socially, that's what they believe, is that men are the top of the totem pole.
Yeah.
But without us, guess what? Men win is a Well, quite frankly, just because, you can't produce a child without the male or the female.
Right. I mean,
you need both.
These days, with their whole robots and incubators and stuff like that, there's a possibility, but you still need... I don't think they
made sperm.
Are you sure?
I said I don't think.
Girl, I don't know.
I'm not sure of anything.
All I know is these days you be done found an embryo in one of them daggone thick type situations, and it's like they no longer need a woman's womb. They created
with the 3D printing.
You know what I'm saying?
They're gonna just 3D print you a whole baby.
They really can, but I mean, in truth, we need each other. So why not listen to one another? Why not build with one another? Why not be equals? Because apparently we are taken from the rib to be by your side, not to be under your feet, right? Come on. So that's how I see it. We're equals. Let's be that.
And I guess to an extent, it goes into personality. There are some very competitive people, man and woman.
True.
And so when you add in the competitive edge, it's I can do anything. You can do better.
I remember that. That. And I sure tried too.
But we, as women, we are forced to be competitive. We have to fight for our rights. Yes. We have to fight for pay. We have to fight for benefits. We have to fight for seats at tables.
And fight to just be heard in general.
Right. And so it also leads me to another issue. The people that, for lack of better words, opt to be women. The people that society was not created a woman biologically
Well, see,
or by birthright.
I wonder if they're actually in a better place then, because they're already male and can assert themselves differently.
No. And I say this because of the work I do. I've spoken to many women that had to learn a whole new way because they grew up in one way. Be given that level of respect or that level of free reign as a man in the world. But when you're no longer a man in the world, even though internally you did not feel like a man in general, the world viewed you as a man. That was then taken.
Because you're making them now see you as a woman.
Because you are now seen as a woman. And when that is taken, you have to readjust yourself. Because when you say something, you are questioned. And when you do something, you are belittled. And when you are asserting your opinion somewhere, you are told it does not matter.
Or you're being too emotional.
Right. That is a different reality. But the opposite is also true for my other folks that are born with the F under gender and transfer into who they are truly aligned to be. They then go from being questioned about everything to be given the opportunity to be heard at tables they were not heard at before. Especially if their story did not precede them.
That's an interesting challenge. Like, I mean, it's almost, it made me question then why would you want to give up all this quote unquote privilege of a man to be then a woman and questioned?
Because you don't align with that.
No, I get that. But if you think about it, it's like, wow, you took on that challenge. They're strong.
Right.
I see it as, wow. Like, that's good. I don't even know how to even, all I want to do is clap. Like, shoot, if you took that on, wow.
The strength, courage, and oomph.
Yes.
To, denounce the understanding
of manhood. Right.
To then pick up and join walking arms.
Right.
With your sisters.
That's powerful.
Powerful is an understatement.
Good Lord.
Like, we live this every day. We know this. But in the general sense, men do not understand what we go through.
I know.
To be able to see both sides and be able to understand both sides, to walk the shoes of both sides. That's unique.
It really is. It really is. And the same goes with the females changing into a male role. Yes, you transition to a form of power, so to speak, but you have to fight to actually get that power, especially if somebody knows that you are a woman first.
Right.
That is good too. Like,
but
seriously.
This is oftentimes why a lot of people will transition and then change states. So that way those people that knew them are not in their circumference now.
Okay.
So they can start afresh.
Yeah. But then you still have to come out eventually.
No, you not unless you're dating somebody. Your employment doesn't need to know that. Your friends necessarily doesn't need to know that.
Okay.
It's different when you're intimately connected because that goes into health stuff and yada yada yada. Then yes, you want to share that information. But everyone doesn't need to know your journey because who you are is who you are. It's either they're gonna like you or they're not.
It's true.
They're either gonna be your friend or they're not. If you choose to share that.
You know me, I'm just an all out. You gotta just tell me all of this because if you don't and then something hits me later, I would feel some kind of way.
But sometimes it's too painful.
Person. Well, I can understand that, but I'm an honesty person. I want it all or nothing.
Yeah. But
I get
at the same time, are they willing or able?
I get that.
Able to share that.
I know that that's a struggle, but for me.
Yeah.
I would hope that people would tell me. Whoever I was friends with or whatever, I would hope they would tell me. I'm a good person, just bent to explain things, your way of thinking. I will listen. And I will be the one to understand. I just believe in doing that because I want the world to be a better place. Yeah. I don't want the hate. I don't want racism. I don't want women versus men. I don't want none of that.
Yeah. It's the unfortunate truth that this is what we're living with. This is what we're dealing with. And so across state lines, I've been in other states, especially down south, where, you know, women are not necessarily heard. You know, when you walk into, prime example, and this speaks out to my domestic violence people. You know, when you walk into a police station or you walk into a hospital and you say you've been abused, oftentimes it's, well, what did you do?
Sure.
Or why were you dressed that way?
Oh, man.
What I did, you know, outside of, dressed. You know, actually starting, you know, if you punch somebody, you might get punched back. But again, at what point does it cause you to say, what did you do? And how I dress depict you not listening to my words?
See, that's why I never really went to the police, because I knew that stigma with them always not siding with the victim, so to speak. They want to blame the victim first, and then all of a sudden, it's, well.
Victim blaming is often something that happens against women.
Yes. And that's why, like I said, I refused to go to the police. Anytime anything happened, it was like, yeah, no. Today, I just get killed. Stop. Yes, I'm crazy. Go ahead.
But it's those things that people don't talk about. You know, when you're speaking up for inequalities or things like that, you're silenced by the mannerisms or the things that are said. Or your time is cut short. How many times has a woman taken the stage to speak on whatever is the topic and, oh, well, you've used your time, but you didn't get as much time as the man before you.
That's true.
Or the man after you. But your time is done.
Because they're done seeing your pretty face.
Because they're done hearing your emotional rants.
That too. But they would always,
yeah.
Look and just.
And so, you know, there's always this caveat of, you know, unspokenly that says, you know, women have to be educated and present themselves X, Y, and Z. But even when we're educated and we come with our scholarly sources and we are presenting the way you've asked us to present, even though it does not align with who we are, there is hurdles. Continuous random barriers as to why we can't be heard or why we can't be seen.
True.
It's interesting because, you know, we just had their presidential thing. And it was always, oh, women in office and the PMSing and they're emotional. Men can be emotional too.
True.
Clearly.
I mean, I've heard plenty of people ask a man if they've been on their period.
Emotions are for everyone.
Right.
Not just women. But we are predicted to be emotional. We are predicted to act a certain way. But the fact of the matter is I shouldn't say fact of the matter. The old saying is that men live life and are guided by their blinking eye. Whereas women, we're guided by our emotions, supposedly. Which one's better?
I don't know. I mean,
one is depicted off of others, and one is for sole benefit.
I'm one of those people, I think rationally about all kinds of stuff, and I might be emotionally charged, but I sit there and try to think of the pros and cons before I make a move. I would think that most women would.
And so I think all of these little, what is the word? Cliches, statistical quotes and things. I think they have a very small ever of truth. There is a population of women that are highly emotional and can't really get past their emotions.
Right.
Same for men, though.
Right.
There are, some small portion of women that don't always have the right things to say. But that's true for all humans. All humans have times and moments in space where they might not say the most appropriate things for one reason or another. That's not a woman thing. It's a human thing.
Exactly. You never know who's in what type of headspace.
And it's all about perception.
That too.
Because if you're angry, me saying good morning is going to anger you more.
Yeah, it may not be a good morning for me.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything wrong.
Right.
It's just how you want to view it.
Exactly. And see, I've seen that.
But that goes back into the women and silencing them. If the people at the table already have a understanding or perspective of the woman or women in general, it's automatically going to turn out negative. Regardless of if that woman's coming factual, emotional, scientific, like anything,
Right.
they're already going to be seen or negated because of personal perspective or, whatever is driving the receiving end of that message.
And instead, we need to find open-mindedness and allow women to speak so that they are heard, so that things can change, for one. I mean, it's really no longer a man's world, truthfully. I mean, it is changing. I see a change coming.
Really been a man's
Girl,
world,
I know, right? Because women have always been around and, had a hand in or were whispering in the ear of some prominent male.
Right.
So, I get that. So, basically, we all need to be heard.
And for women, honestly, if you're not being heard, find another way to voice your opinion.
Yes.
Whether that's email,
Writing is a good
outlet, communicating with multiple people on the team, yes, separately and then collectively.
And don't be afraid to speak up, because your words are important. I'm learning that.
Yes, your words are important. You are important. You matter to the fields, to the community, to your family, to you. Let's not forget about that. You matter to you.
Like your book titled I Matter.
Yes, I Matter is a self-care journal, yes, that helps women along their journey to reconnect with themselves. Learn that they matter, learn where they matter, and be able to walk forward in the world in their own right.
Right. And I think everybody should actually take a look at that, because it has a lot of tidbits that could help you understand that you matter.
I appreciate the plug. But yes, it's and honestly, it's a journey everyone has to take. And I feel like everyone is forced to take it in tidbits, right, along the way. We fight it.
Right. You're not able to stop and really appreciate yourself and really, how can I say, soak up, yeah, the joy of understanding, yeah, wow, I went through life all these years not feeling like I truly matter. And I know now I really do. I just got to work through them steps to make sure I keep forward and know that is.
Yes. Because as women, we tie ourselves to a purpose or a model or, yes, some type of thing. Right. Some people, and this is something that has been going on for many years, being a mother or a parent.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I tie mine to being a mom. I'm mommy. Right. There is no other thing. I am
but
mommy.
Who are you?
That's all I saw was I'm mommy.
And being a mother is one of those caps we wear.
Right.
We were a student at one point. We were an employee. Some people tie themselves to being an employee.
Right.
And they excel at that. And I'm
right,
not saying that, what you're doing is not meaningful.
Right. It's just
But
that
where
you're
do
more than
you
that.
come in?
Right. Because you're more
In that,
than just
right?
an employee, and I am more than a mom. So I can see that.
And so oftentimes, and I challenge everyone to do this, often I always ask people, tell me about you. And people are like, oh, well, I'm a mother. No. I don't want to know your jobs. Tell me about you. And everybody's like, what do you mean? Because I'm still a mother? And I'm like, no. Like, there are certain characteristics about you that make you who you are, that make your mothering what it is, to make your employee self, your identity as an employee, what it is. There's things, there's staples of every person, there's characteristics inside every person that makes it what it is. Because every mother is not the same. Every employee is not the same.
That's so true.
So what about you makes you you? And it's not the fact that you're a mother. Because you were you before you were a mother. You might have fine-tuned, changed, pruned some of those things. But you were still a person without the duties that you are putting on yourself.
And that's where you have to learn to unsilence oneself.
Right.
Because that's a form of silencing yourself. You silenced the you part.
Correct.
And became just a mom or just an employee, or unsilence yourself. Wow.
Let yourself live.
Okay. I like that.
There's nothing more freeing than being who you are unapologetically.
Right. I'm getting there.
And so for women, especially in the U.S., we are traumatized. And on so many different levels. And so over the course of years, days, months, decades, we slowly package who we are in this little box. And we hide it deep down the side. So no one can hurt us anymore. But honestly, all that is, even though we think it's packaged, we are just putting concrete cinder blocks on top of who we are, and then we can't see.
Yes.
And we are no longer talking from our truth. We are talking from our experiences, which is not who we are.
Right. Wow. That's nice.
So talk from you. Be who you are. Because who you are is beautiful. And who you are is beautiful.
Yes,
and
it
unique.
is.
And we want to see it.
And we want to hear it. So unsilence us women. Be heard.
Yes. We've been silent for too long.
Yes. So thank you for joining us on another episode of Sip and Tip.
Peace, love, and happiness.
Comment, subscribe, and share.
Yes.